This episode,
we won't be making this a Joe 90 themed one.
We've unleashed a psychopath in the randomizer.
and we head into space with ESA's David Parker
That's all coming up in Pod 90.
of the Jerry Anderson Podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Jerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Pod 90.
No. Yes, it is
What?
Pod 90.
Hang on, what was that?
No, it's fine.
Oh.
We're 10 episodes away, or 9, I suppose, after this, away from Pod 100.
I know, that's crazy.
Our century is fast approaching.
Yes. Have we still not run out of things to say?
Not yet, no. Are our combined ages? No, they're not. They're not. Anyway, right.
What?
So,
Where were you going with that?
No, don't worry. You are Richard James. I am Jamie Anderson. This is the Jerry
Yeah,
Anderson
just a minute
Podcast.
though.
where
Combined ages? You were
Yeah, I was
thinking it
thinking-
might be 90, weren't you?
Yeah.
Right. That would make me, what, 57? 56?
In fact, I turned 35 yesterday
Oh, well, we're not so far
from the
off
day of
then.
release.
All right.
So,
yeah, you're forgiven.
yeah, anyway, so as I was saying, you're Richard James, I'm Jamie Anderson.
yes,
This is
yes.
the Jerry Anderson Podcast.
Yes,
we'll also hear later on from Chris Dale, who does his lovely randomizer.
Yes,
but
yes.
what else happens in this
Well,
thing?
we've got the news, of course, from the Jerry Anderson universe, because there's always some new stuff going on, isn't there? We've got some emails from our lovely listeners who've been emailing us at podcast@jerryanderson.co.uk. We're going to head on over to the Facebook page as well, facebook.com/podsterons. No, facebook.com/groups/podsterons,
Yes.
because they've been posting some lovely stuff. And we've also got, is that thing we do at the beginning of every podcast that I can't... Oh, it's something to do with, you get a book and...
Is it where we flick through the book and you
Yeah,
say
what is
something?
that thing?
Well, we'll find out when we get there in a minute.
Oh, okay. And what's the first part of this week's interview?
This week we are talking to Dr. David Parker of the European Space Agency, where he is the Director of Human and Robotic Exploration.
Amazing. And a Jerry Anderson fan, I take it.
And a Jerry Anderson fan,
Yeah.
yes. In fact, you may remember from some time ago, Thunderbird 3, a small toy of Thunderbird 3, was sent into space, into the ISS.
Yes.
And we've got some lovely pictures on the website. In fact, if you search Thunderbird 3 ISS on Google or whatever, you will find the lovely pictures on our website.
Mm-hmm.
That was all happening because of David Parker. David is a massive Thunderbirds fan. He's also, a high flyer, you might say,
yes.
at ESA.
Yeah.
And
Not
we had
literally,
a great... No.
No.
He, in fact, he does go on to say that he's more of a sort of bureaucrat at ESA
Okay,
these days.
yeah.
But he is still responsible for awesome stuff. It was an absolutely inspiring chat, and you will hear it over this and the next 2 podcasts.
Oh, brilliant.
Well worth a listen. What a great bloke.
Now, who got in touch with who?
Well, he reached out to say, I just thought you'd like to know I've sent Thunderbird 3 into space.
Oh, yes, of course.
Initially,
Yeah.
which was very cool. In fact, which we revealed, didn't we reveal
Yeah.
that live?
In Leicester.
Fab Live.
That's right.
When we did also the Pod 50 or whatever it was,
Yes.
or Pod 54. Anyway, and I just said, would you be up for a chat on the podcast sometime? And it's taken us a long time to arrange it.
Yeah.
His assistant, Monique, has been brilliant as well, and she's a huge Thunderbirds fan.
Ah.
So it's all been rather nice. And to top it all off, obviously, he's at the European Space Agency.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've sent him a Eurosec polo shirt
Oh, of
from
course you have.
Doppelganger.
Great.
Because he basically said all the stuff at the start of Doppelganger is like real life at ESA.
Yes.
Anyway.
I hope it stops there, though, just after the beginning of Doppelganger.
Well, you'll have to find out later in a later part of our interview.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all coming up later on.
Yes.
I've just remembered the thing.
Oh, good.
It's Fab Facts.
Oh, that's what it is.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
So, in the interest of speed,
Yeah.
I have a book of Fab Facts.
Yeah.
I flick through it, you shout Fab, and I read a fact
Well-
from that page.
Yes, that's it. Pure and simple.
Great, let's do it then. Here we go.
Yeah. Fab.
The late 1960s is where we've arrived.
Right.
You're a UFO fan, aren't you, Richard? You love a bit of
bet.
UFO.
Yeah, I do.
So if I was to ask you, Richard James, who is the Shadow Moonbase commander? You might say Paul Foster, perhaps?
I'd say Paul Foster, yes.
Anyone else you might say if I said that's incorrect?
Gay Ellis?
Gay Ellis, yeah, good choice, good choice. Or perhaps maybe one other.
Was it Nina Barry?
That would have been an interesting choice as well. No, you would be wrong.
Oh?
That very first Moonbase commander was actually Franco De Sica?
Franco De Sica?
Yeah. So he was in charge when the camera started rolling on the first episode of UFO.
Yes.
It's actor Franco De Rosa
Right.
played him and had previously been cast in Doppelganger as Eurosex public relations manager Paolo Landi.
Right.
But he only appears briefly in the final film, although he was billed 6th in the credits.
Right.
Ahead of Ed Bishop and George Sewell, would you believe?
Oh, I've got a story about that. Yes, go on.
So there was an entire subplot involving Landy having an affair with Glenn Ross's wife Sharon. He was the astronaut in Doppelganger, which ends with Ross finding them in bed together and throwing them both in the swimming pool. But it was cut from the film due to length.
Well, it would have been a fun day's filming, though, wouldn't it?
It probably would have been, yes. Yeah. But it wasn't cut just because of length. Dad didn't like him, so that didn't help. There's a bit of a theme there with John Tracy being relegated to Thunderbird 5.
Yes.
Anyway, when production began on UFO, Landy was hired to play one of the 4 main characters, and that character was Moonbase Commander Franco De Sica.
Okay.
Although, allegedly, he was hired because Sylvia thought he was rather handsome.
Oh, well, that's why I'm doing the podcast.
That's exactly why I invited you to do this all those podcasts ago. You're still here, Richard. Problem was, though, that poor old Franco wasn't a very good actor. He wasn't professional, and his performance varied so much from take to take that it was impossible to work with him.
Right.
Now, there are varying reports as to how long he was around for. Some say a day, others say a week.
Yes.
But very soon, everybody was thoroughly fed up with him, and Dad later recalled saying to him, "If I were you, I wouldn't bother coming in tomorrow."
Oh, right. Wow.
So now they had a moon
no
base.
actor ever wants to hear, really.
No, exactly. But by doing that, they had a moon base but with no commander, and someone who had impressed Dad and Sylvia with her professionalism throughout was Gabrielle Drake.
Yes.
So that was the short-term solution, was by putting Lieutenant, or I should say Lieutenant Ellis, in the commander's chair for the first 3 episodes, and giving her DeRosa's dialogue.
Wow.
Reallocating most of hers to the other characters, and a long-term solution was needed.
Yeah.
So, because Drake had to leave to go and shoot a film in Vienna.
Right, as you do.
And scripts were coming through, they needed a male moonbase commander, such as Survival and the Dalatek Affair.
Yeah.
And that's when Paul Foster was created, and Michael Billington was brought on board to take over.
Ah, great.
What a chain of events, eh?
Yes. It just goes to show, doesn't it?
Never hire someone to act because you think they're handsome.
Yeah, but also never upset the producers. I mean, really.
By being rubbish.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can get places by being rubbish, but you can get further by being nice and professional.
This is very true.
Can't you?
Great advice there, Podsterons.
Well, now, it's interesting you talk about the billing there. He was 6th in the billing before, I think, Ed Bishop and George Sewell. I once did a film called Lover's Prayer, I think. Julie Walters, Nathaniel Parker, Nick Stahl, who is the young actor in, I think, Terminator, one of the Terminator movies.
Yeah.
And I only had a day's... Oh, and Kirsten Dunst. I played Kirsten Dunst's husband, although we never actually met.
I played Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah. We never actually met during the filming, and I only had a very small part. It was one scene, one day's work, out in Vienna, I think it was. No, it was Prague. No, it was Prague.
Okay.
And different day's work, came home, then got a very apologetic email from my agent saying, the producers have been in touch. There's been a problem with your contract. The contract that you signed stipulates that you get front billing before the title. Is it okay if they remove that particular...
And you said, not on your Nelly.
I thought about it. I thought about standing my ground. But no, I think the decent thing to do was say, yeah, fair enough, okay. Put me at the back with everyone else. But that would have been hilarious. Starring Richard James with all of 6 lines.
Amazing.
Yes.
What a shame you didn't stick to your guns,
I
eh?
know. Perhaps if I had a bit more courage, I would have done.
You would do it now.
I would do it now. Of course I would. Yeah. With the podcast under my belt. Phew.
Yeah, exactly.
They knew who
90
I think
episodes. 90 episodes. Right. Well, I mean, before we tell you that I wouldn't bother turning up tomorrow, Richard.
Right.
Let's end this Fab Fact. That is the end of this week's
Sacked Fact. Sacked Fact. That's very good.
And be careful how you say that one.
Yeah. It's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
Goodness me.
You're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Sorry, go on, yes. I was
just going to say, just to be completely clear, you absolutely must carry on turning up, Richard. You're an essential part of this podcast and a real pro.
it says there in the script.
I just wanted to make sure I read those bits.
Yeah, great. So you are listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Now look, it's really important. It's really vital. I cannot stress this enough, that you subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. It's even more important that you leave us a rating and a nice review, and it's vital that you share us with your friends so they can hear us too.
Absolutely. That would be a real win for everybody involved.
Oh!
I think.
Oh, is that because WIN? So that's World Intelligence Network?
What? No,
because it's Joe 90, we're doing Pod 90.
No.
Huh?
I just said it would be really good that...
I thought it'd be nice to get some sort of Joe 90 references in, wouldn't it?
Not really, no.
Oh.
I would prefer if we didn't. I like that you almost called a rating and a review a revating
I
there.
did. You noticed that, did you?
Yeah, so if Postrons you would like to leave us a revating, we'd be very happy indeed.
Now look, Jamie, you made the classic error last week, didn't you, of asking for Gerry Anderson-related jokes.
Oh no, I'd forgotten about that.
So of course you know who's been in touch, don't you?
And we think, could it be Simon Allen?
Well, spot on. Simon Allen's got in touch. I'm going to sprinkle these liberally throughout this podcast, I think.
It's probably best you do.
Yeah, but here's the first one. What's the special in Precinct 88's canteen?
I don't know. What is it?
Lamb Broken Josh. Oh. On another Space Precinct theme, what's the name of the documentary that followed one member of the Space Precinct cast as they took on the role of Posh Spice?
What?
Bendix Like Beckham.
Oh.
Yes! It's good stuff, isn't it? Well, Jamie, you did ask.
Yeah, it's the law of unintended consequences, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Now, people have also been getting in touch with us on Twitter. You can hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, or you can tag me, Richard N. James, or him. I'm Jamie Anderson, and we'll see your posts. I was complaining about February, Jamie, on Twitter this week, because it's a very dull, grey, drizzly, sleety month, isn't it?
Well, it's over now, because it's the 2nd of March today, but...
Lee Spencer, though, got in touch on Twitter and said, I bet Jeff would put you up in the roundhouse on Tracy Island. If you don't mind Thunderbird 3 waking you up when it takes off just metres from your bed, of course. Lol. So, yeah.
Lol indeed.
Yeah, so that would be nice. So let us know at home, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Where in the Gerry Anderson universe are you planning on spending your summer holidays? And why? Yeah. And finally, hearing that you were interviewing David Parker from ESA, Cosmic Chris got in touch to say, David Parker is amazing. When I started working in space research, we had no footprint in human spaceflight. David has done a fab job bringing the UK into the game. Pretty cool, isn't it?
He absolutely has done a marvellous job of that.
Yeah,
so,
great. Nice. Yes?
Oh, no.
Well, you're looking like something's going to happen.
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is going to happen is probably the Gerry Anderson news, which could happen now.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Let's do it then. Here we go. It's newsy news.
Oh, hang on,
no need for you to say it at all, Richard.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just saving your poor little throat.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
Did you notice, Richard James, that the Gerry Anderson store has had a rather marvellous facelift?
Well, you did because you sent me a link to it.
Oh, well, all right. You could have said that you found it by yourself and enjoyed it or something.
Actually, Jamie, I found it by myself and I enjoyed it, that sort of thing.
Gosh, I can really see all those years of acting and training have paid off. Yeah, so the Gerry Anderson store has had a facelift. It's all shiny and new, hopefully easier to use, mobile friendly and all that sort of stuff. Do have a look around and let us know what you think. If there's anything that isn't working, then, I suppose you should let us know, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. If you like things in particular or you'd like to see more of a particular feature on there, I'd love to know that too. I hope you enjoy it and hope you appreciate the new look.
Yes.
It's very modern, isn't it?
Oh, it's very, very modern, Jamie, yeah.
While you're visiting, you might notice that the Supercar soundtrack is now available for pre-order. In fact, will be out at the end of this month.
Oh.
You can either get it on CD or limited edition lemon sherbet vinyl. Now, I must add, that is the colour, not the flavour.
Right.
Please do not lick the Supercar soundtrack. I mean, if you get the CD version, Lee Sullivan, we know what you're like. I mean, you can probably lick the CD version, but I wouldn't recommend licking the vinyl version. There are 500 copies available of the Supercar vinyl, and it is selling out quite quickly. So if you want that, especially if you picked up the UFO purple vinyl, then yes, you'll probably want to grab that.
Great.
I should think.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Also, last week saw the 60th anniversary of Four Feather Falls. I think we mentioned that.
We did.
Chris Dale's done a rather marvellous article on the website all about Four Feather Falls. Worth a little read if you want to know about how it came to be and Well, a bit, obviously things like Barry Gray being the guy who brought up the idea.
Oh.
It's a bit of an unusual one, isn't it?
I did not know that.
The composer came up with the idea, and lots of little additional bits of info there.
Yeah.
So go and have a read of that. If you live in or near Montreal in Canada, or should I say Montréal? I don't know. I'm not sure how they actually say it in Montreal. They certainly don't say Montreal, I can tell you that much.
Okay.
There is a puppet festival, an indie puppet festival called Oof.
Right. Was that eggs or something, isn't it?
Oh, no, that's Oof.
Oh, I see.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
No, OUF.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you are there and you're going to go, it runs from the 3rd to the 8th of March. And Lindsay, who was part of the team that did Thunderbirds 1965, will be there with Scott, Penny, and Brains.
Wow.
In the Pavilion Saint-Viateur.
Very good.
Try to read that without me glasses.
That's great, yeah.
Pavilion Saint-Viateur at the following times.
Oh.
March the 3rd, 6 to 11 p.m. March the 4th, 6 to 11 p.m. March the 6th, 7 to 11 p.m. March the 7th, 12 to 3 p.m. then 6 to 11 p.m. And March the 8th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
That's a busy week, isn't it?
It is very busy, so do pop along. Sorry, my dog's shaking there. I imagine that you'll be able to operate the puppets.
Yeah.
And Lindsay is really lovely and well worth going along to see her. So
Great.
There you go. I know it's a bit limited if you live in, Bognor Regis or near Schiphol or Brisbane, then it's not so useful for you. But if you are in or around Montreal, then do go and have fun at Oof.
Now, did you hear this week, Jamie, about Knee High Theatre in Cornwall who have lost some puppets?
No, I didn't.
Yes, I think 4 of their puppets have been stolen that they've been using for recent productions. I think one of their earliest puppets, they've been going for some years, Knee High Theatre. So keep your eyes peeled if you're in the southwest for some discarded puppets.
That's rather sad,
isn't it? Yeah.
Who steals puppets from a theatre company?
Yeah, I know. Ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, that's rather sad. There you go. Let's see if we can raise some awareness and find the missing puppets.
Yeah.
Finally, though, for this week, Richard, there is an offer. I know you're a bit of a fan of a G&T, aren't you?
Well, just the one or two, yeah.
You're also a bit of a fan of coffee. So,
yes.
What better way to celebrate that than with a Lady Penelope glass tumbler to have your G&Ts in?
Yes.
And a Lady Penelope travel mug to take your coffee with you.
Wow! What better?
There you go. Well, both items are £2 off each all week in the Jerry Anderson store. You can buy one or the other, or both. It's up to you. But they'll only be discounted for the week, and stocks are low, so go and grab them, gin and coffee fiends.
Nice. I will.
I
That's
can
my
see
evening sorted.
Your eyes widened at the very mention of it.
Absolutely.
But that ginny coffee moment brings us to the end of this week's Jerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Gin and coffee news. Now, I've got a bit more news, actually. If you head on over to facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, you will see that the Podsterons have their second fanzine out this month.
Amazing.
Yeah, now it features artwork from Heather Ballard, International Rescue features Isabelle Saucier's ponies, and Cosplay Corner features a few words of encouragement for those who have been thinking of dabbling in cosplay but perhaps haven't yet found the courage. You could also, and this is quite fun, claim your house. So rather like the sorting hat in Harry Potter that puts you into Gryffindor and Whifflepuff or whatever it is, you can choose between Anderson-related houses. So you could be Wynne, Tracy, Spectrum, or Wasp.
Nice.
Yeah. So do pop along and join in the fun over there.
Yeah. I mean, how lovely that our listeners have put together a fanzine.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And we really appreciate it.
Not only that, of course, but they've been getting in touch via podcast@jerryanderson.co.uk, like Steve Godric, who says, "Hi both, brackets, I bottled the billing order decision." Yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to mention how much I'm loving the podcasts. Are you all right, Steve? Anyway, no, he continues. You guys have a lovely dynamic. The interviews are interesting and the randomizer is fun. I'm currently playing catch-up and I'm listening to Pod 32 on Spotify. So I just enjoyed listening to Phil Ford and his love of UFO, my personal favourite Jerry Anderson show. This leads me to my merch request. There is a beautiful UFO mug available from the website using the cover image from the DVD set. Can we get black ones as well as white ones? I have the Space 1999 mug, which looks great with the image blending into the mug colour. A black mug for the UFO image would create the same blended effect and look lovely next to my Space 1999 one. I also love the idea I heard on the podcast of Space 1999 Season 1 uniform tops. Keep up the great work, and hopefully I'll see the mug appear in the store and hear the email being read out when I finally catch up. All the best, Steve. Well, so he's currently on Pod 32, we're on Pod 90. So I'm guessing it's going to be quite a while before he hears this.
You've got some time, but I will investigate with Tim immediately after this recording if we can put the UFO cover up on a black mug.
Great. Paul Hyder, who we know well in China,
yes, indeed,
has got in touch to say, "Hi guys, Richard, your explanation for avoiding the name Precinct 44 was spot on." Yes, we spoke about this a couple of pods ago, because 4 is unlucky in Chinese, as it sounds like death. But what you didn't say is that 8 is a lucky number in Chinese, as it sounds like treasure. The Beijing Olympics began in 8808, for example. So Precinct 88 would have gone down well here, but he says, was it ever shown in China? Don't know.
I don't think it was.
No? Well, they missed a trick there. I've been with the podcast since episode 1, and it's a highlight of each week, especially at the moment, as my family and I have been in COVID-19 virus quarantine for a month.
Oh, Paul.
All the best from Paul Hyder in Kunming in China. Well, Paul, all the best to you. I mean, I hope we're keeping you company throughout your quarantine. I hope it's not too stressful a time for you. I'm sure everything will be fine, of course. But in the meantime, you've got lots of podcasts to re-listen to.
Yes, and also, Paul, if you're running out of podcasts, then pop along to the YouTube channel. There's a load of primers and all sorts of stuff. In fact, I forgot to say in the news that Chris Dale's Thunderbird 6 primer is out recently, so that's well worth a look.
Okay, and finally, a couple of more jokes then, Jamie.
What do we?
You asked for Gerry Anderson-related jokes, and that's what you will get from Simon Allen, who says, "Why are there no toilets on Tracy Island?"
I don't know.
Because the John is in Thunderbird 5.
Okay, I'll give you a thumbs up for that one.
Now, Torchy's been recycled, Jamie. It can now be found floating in the Solent. He's a battery boy.
Yeah, you just lost that thumbs up there.
And finally, the documentary about the ex-UFO actor and James Bond villain is to be called The Great British Burkoff. There we are. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, good effort, Simon. Fair enough. Better than I could come up with, that's for sure.
And there we are for now. If you have any jokes, of course, do send them in. podcast@jerryanderson.co.uk, and I shall be delighted to read them out for Jamie's delectation next time. You seem to be enjoying them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
they're great.
Right.
Thanks. Anyway, shall we skip away from all things jokey and go into something a lot more serious?
What, if we must?
Actually, it's not that serious,
Okay.
but it is all about space and space travel and human and robotic exploration beyond terrestrial boundaries.
Right.
Which is rather exciting. David Parker, Dr. David Parker, although I should say that we're now a little bit more informal in our emails and I get to call him Dave.
Oh, do you? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So me and Dave
Yes.
had a lovely chat and he was absolutely brilliant, and I came away from our interview feeling inspired and full of energy and excited about what lays beyond the atmosphere. So I hope you enjoy part 1 of 3 of our interview with ESA's Dr. David Parker.
Hi, I'm David Parker. I'm Director of Human and Robotic Exploration at ESA, which is the European Space Agency. And so my life is spent working on future space projects, and I have the privilege that some of my staff include Europe's astronauts.
Amazing. Can I actually just say, we've had Gary Newman and Chris Packham and Sophie Aldred, who was in Doctor Who, and loads of other guests. Nobody has yet given as cool an intro as that, I don't think.
You're too kind.
You're automatically top of the pile now, David. A few of our podcast listeners will know that you are the man who sent something rather special into space. And that's why we're in touch now, because you reached out to me. Could you just tell me and the listeners a little bit about that and how it happened and why?
Well, so as I say, some of my staff are Europe's astronauts. We have 7 astronauts. And Alex Gerst happens to have a German passport, went into space back in 2018 on his second mission. And one of the things astronauts can do is take a small package of personal belongings with them. And Alex came to me and said, "Is there anything, boss, you want to take into space?" And you think about, some personal memento or something. And I went home, and I thought, I know exactly what I want to send into space. A little tiny model of Thunderbird 3, because I've been an Anderson fan since I was in short trousers and before, probably. And so I went out and bought a very tiny model of Thunderbird 3, one that came in pieces. And I gave it in pieces to Alex, and Alex took it up to the space station and, to my amazement, took a couple of amazing photographs of this little model of Thunderbird 3 floating aboard the International Space Station in a bit we call the cupola, which is like the viewing gallery aboard the station. And he managed to get one picture of it floating inside the space station but through the window behind in such a way that it looked like Thunderbird 3 was about to dock with the space station. I was stunned and amazed. All the things that happened in my career. It's personally one of the coolest.
Well, it's probably one of the coolest emails I've ever received, and the photos, just amazing. And it came back in one piece, and you've got it now.
Absolutely. It came back in several pieces. I reassembled it. It's sitting back on the mantel shelf back home right now. Yes, absolutely.
That is amazing. Again, one of the coolest outreach emails ever. And I've just realised, actually, you saying the astronauts come and call you boss before going off into space, you're basically Jeff Tracy, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, there are 7 of them, but yeah, near enough. Yeah.
Well, let's just say you are. You are the Jeff Tracy of the ESA.
Yeah.
And thank you also.
I wondered about Jeff's past life. You know, he was supposed to be an astronaut himself and being one of the first people to go into space and all of that. But he wondered, they never told us enough about his past career, I think. So, yeah, we should. Perhaps there's a whole backstory. There's a whole another series to be made about his life.
We are much in need of a prequel of Thunderbirds. I completely agree.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we're going to get onto Thunderbirds, but I would like to take you back in time. You said you were a Gerry Anderson fan since you were in short trousers, or possibly before. I'm not sure what comes before. Nappies?
Yeah, exactly. I thought, when I said that, let's not go there.
Well, let's take us back to short trouser time and tell me about your first memory of a Gerry Anderson show. It doesn't have to be the actual first viewing experience, although if it is, then even better. But what do you remember in the early days?
Yeah, I don't think I can remember which one, because must have been 67, 68, 69, when all of the series were on almost continuously. So whether it was Thunderbirds was probably already on. I definitely remember Fireball and obviously Stingray. And then I sort of remember when Captain Scarlet started, and then a year later, Joe 90. And that was, by the time Joe 90 appeared, my dad was always saying, "Oh, should be growing out of these now." Sorry, still not. Sorry, Dad. But definitely Thunderbirds is the strongest and most important. Actually, you've just triggered a memory. I do remember being in playgroup, sitting under a table with probably a slightly broken big Stingray toy, which will probably be worth a fortune now. So it must have been one of those big plastic ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. So Anderson things were very much at their pinnacle, really, in terms of popular culture at that time.
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely got TV21 comic, and I still think the actual imagery in those are fantastic. The Frank Bellamy, was it, that did them? Some of them. But then the Joe 90 comic came out a bit later, and then they sort of merged. Oh, yeah, definitely Pete Anderson, I think that was. And everybody was into it. And they were, what I remember, and I don't know if anybody else has ever said this, is, of course, Thunderbirds was 50 minutes long or an hour long with the adverts. But I'm sure that Granada, because I was in Granada land, Granada cut them into half and showed them in 2 halves at some point, so that you sort of came back the next day or later in the week to see the rest of the episode. Maybe I dreamt that up. I don't know.
That is quite possible. They certainly had advert bumpers cut in halfway through, so maybe they did. I don't actually know, but I'm sure our listeners will, and they'll email in for sure. So Thunderbirds is the peak. So let's go straight into Thunderbirds then. Why did at the time, I guess it was screened, black and white puppet show, which took itself very seriously, grab you as a kid, and how can that possibly still have power over you now as an adult?
Well, I mean, look, the imagination, the motion, but the reality of it was kind of an alternative world where the puppets are not completely real, the models are not completely real, but put together, you're into this dynamic world. The music, of course, I love Barry Gray's music. I still have that on my iPhone to listen to. But the explosions, definitely explosions. The bigger the better. The fact that everything explodes even when it shouldn't really explode. You know, a car goes off a cliff, and instead of just breaking into pieces, it explodes for some reason. I think every petrol tank in the 21st century must be sort of badly designed so everything explodes. Why is that?
Yeah, for some reason, everything in the world of Anderson, every item is loaded with 10,000 tons of TNT with no explanation. It made for a spectacle, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so I definitely had some of the toys again. So I think the plastic ones, there is a picture of me somewhere, black and white photo on the beach, probably 5 years old, with Thunderbird 2. So I think it must have been one of those Rosenthal toys with which for some reason came with the Land Rover instead of Thunderbird 4 inside it. Never understood that. And playing on the beach with that and endlessly just repeating the launch sequences, the rollout, the tipping up, and off you go. And I'm the youngest of three brothers, and so my oldest brothers would sit there and say, that's impossible, that's impossible. Thunderbird 2 would fall off the end of the launch ramp. It's not going fast enough. Obviously just fall off.
But who cares? Because
it looks fantastic.
It did, and they lived in their own world with their own rules, although there was something special about real models behaving, according to the laws of physics, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the genius of Derek Meddings, was filming them in a way that they're filmed normal speed, but then with high-speed cameras, so that when it's slowed down, you get that sense of weight, that when Thunderbird 2 lands, it sort of lands slowly, and there's a little bit of sort of motion as it bounces back, or whatever it is that gives that sense of reality, or a really big building collapsing or something, or the oil rig. The oil rig, that's one of the best. That's utterly still spectacular.
Yeah, I think that is probably peak Derek Meddings, isn't it? And dare I ask if there's a favourite Thunderbird for you?
Oh, everybody says Thunderbird 2, so I'm going to say Thunderbird 1. Well, because I went off and eventually I was into aeroplanes as well, real aeroplanes, and studying, and much later on. And I know you can tell that Derek Meddings was influenced by the aircraft of the times. And Thunderbird 1 is definitely a bit influenced by the English Electric Lightning, which was this amazing the only British supersonic fighter aircraft. And the wing planform, the shape of the wings is exactly the shape of Thunderbird 1. Except in Thunderbird 1, they fold back for takeoff, of course. And also, if I now look at it, I can say, but that very strange nose cone, which seems to go the wrong way, well, that is the kind of nose cone that people have thought about for hypersonic aeroplanes, for very complicated, boring, nerdy reasons I won't explain. So there are weird features in there that in all of those designs are almost realistic. So, so I'll be awkward and say Thunderbird 1.
That is not awkward at all. I mean, they all have a certain technological engineering glamour to them. But you're quite right that not just Derek, but a lot of the guys on that team had a technical fascination with everything to do with flight and space. I mean, a lot of them were in the RAF, and certainly Dad had a lifelong fascination with flight, which, never ceased. But I'm slightly surprised that as Mr. Do I say ESA or ESA?
ESA, we like to say ESA.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Right. ESA, surely you should be most fascinated by Thunderbird 3 or Thunderbird 5.
Well, the trouble with Thunderbird 5, it does look as if it was the last one to be designed, doesn't it? It always slightly looks like, are there sort of some bedsteads on the end of thing? But Thunderbird 3 is pretty cool. Again, it's only, later years I've seen the cutaway drawings that show the ion drive particle accelerators, which is what those long pole things are at the side. And what's absolutely accurate, the cutaway drawings show things we call reaction wheels, which are exactly what you have inside satellites to make them turn and point. Because if you want to keep a satellite pointing at the Earth or whatever, you don't use thrusters all the time. You have like a flywheel inside. And the same things are on the International Space Station. It keeps the space station stable when the astronauts are moving around inside. So again, clearly Derek was looking at pictures and did understand a little bit about what was really going on in spacecraft even at that time.
Yeah.
So Thunderbird 3 is still the ultimate challenge, because having a rocket that can take off from Earth, go into space and come back in one piece, that's still really a challenge we have in front of us. So it's an inspiration still.
Had to stop it there, sorry, because it's such a great chat. Yeah. I just wanted to make it last a little bit longer. So parts 2 and 3 coming up in pods 91 and 92.
Great.
In the next couple of weeks. Well worth a listen, though. But I should say, at the start of our chat, we had a few technical issues. And while we were solving those technical issues, David showed me on the windowsill in his office, he's got lots of models of various rockets and stuff, all kind of, real stuff.
Yes.
And within that cluster is a little model of Fireflash. And somehow it fits perfectly with all those designs.
Yeah.
And he said people come in and they never question what it is.
Right.
It just fits
the
there.
latest project for ESA,
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, there you go.
Well, yeah.
More to come, more inspirational stuff, but he clearly seriously loves Thunderbirds.
Well, and was responsible for one of the most defining images of last year, wasn't he, David, by sending the Thunderbird 3 up to the International Space Station, taking that picture for us. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and there you go. As you heard there, the little story of how it happened and all that kind of stuff. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
So yes, more Dr. David Parker coming up next week and the week after. I can't wait.
No, that's great. Look forward to it. In the meantime, Simon Allen.
Really? I thought we were...
No, come on.
I thought we were approaching the end.
No, come on. The sooner I say it, the sooner they'll be over. Come on. Well, here's one. Who will win the chess match between Sam Loover and Shane Weston? I don't know. It's a win-win situation. Yeah.
I thought we were avoiding Joe 90.
No, oh yes, of course it's Pod 90. Why have we not been doing some Joe 90s? Oh. Anyway.
What a shame.
Yeah. And finally he says, breaking news, Moonbase Alpha Doctor arrested for stealing cattle. Helena Russell.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I know, it's really tenuous, isn't it?
I mean, a bit of a reach.
But there were some good ones there. Thank you, Simon. I'm going to thank you, Simon, for sending those in. And Jamie, you did ask, and there they are.
Yeah, won't be asking again in a hurry.
Oh, okay.
That's weird, actually. Didn't I, many pods ago, I asked for Jerry Hansen haikus?
Yes,
we got
they
any.
were rather thinner on the ground, weren't they, I think?
Yeah, and we got, 54 jokes from Simon.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, thanks.
Right, should we turn over to the much-loved, rather heroic Chris Dale?
Ah, there he is. I can see him now in my mind's eye.
Yeah. Well, he's been working hard to bring us yet another randomizer. Here it is.
All the toys are talking to each other today, and none of them are talking to me.
Sorry, Torchy, did you say something?
I haven't anyone to talk to. I feel very lonely.
Yes, how tragic. Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, no time for a proper introduction today. We're back in the first season of Space 1999 for an encounter with another unstoppable psychopath. Here's End of Eternity. Oh, do shut up. So here we are, returning to the first season of Space 1999, and it feels like it's been a while since we've last been here. I know we were here for Earthbound, I think, at around about Christmas, wasn't it? But this is only, I think, our third visit to the first season. We've had lots of trips to the second season, of course. Oh, I love this shot of the Eagle parked sideways on the asteroid. Because that's where we are today. We're starting off on a mysterious asteroid. Never normally a good thing for the Alphans. You'd think they might have learned that.
There's an atmosphere source somewhere inside this asteroid.
Inside? We're 3 light years away from the nearest star system. If the asteroids come from there, to get this far at its present velocity, it's been traveling through space for at least 1,000 years.
Right then. I do like it when it seems to happen a lot in this show, in particular, when characters radio in to report something, and then, like, once they've delivered their line, they're done. They switch off. No one even says bye or thank you. It's just, no, I'm gone. We've blown our way into the interior atmosphere of the asteroid.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
Revealings. Luckily, there's an interior door that didn't immediately vent all the atmosphere out into space. And as much as, like, things like underwater scenes, slow motion scuba diving can be a bit tedious in TV and films, I do really like scenes of the Alphans galumping around in slow motion in their spacesuits. So we're back from the opening titles, and this is one written by Johnny Byrne. I always find his scripts for this show, well, let's be fair, he did so much to give this show its heart and its spirit, and even if his episodes don't always come off 100%, they are always
Atmosphere breathable.
Almost just as interesting for how he came up with the ideas as they are to watch in their own right. If you've ever seen him interviewed in various documentaries or in articles and such, he really was quite a fascinating man. We're now slowly creeping our way through the the interior of this asteroid. Lots of lots of tunnels leading off places. Oh. And a door, which was upside down for that shot.
No use. All right, stand clear, Victor.
And appropriately enough, considering the way this episode is going to turn out, this really does feel like the beginnings of a horror film, as so many Space 1999 episodes do, but certainly first season ones. Some might argue episodes from the second season were horrors in a different way, but yeah, I do love this sort of natural curiosity leading to, oops, utter disaster.
Baxter, you all right?
Not Baxter.
All right, Commander.
Yeah, the door wouldn't respond to lasers. Koenig shot it, wandered off, and it exploded on our good friend Baxter.
Sure you're all right?
Yeah, I think so.
Who I waffled over Koenig actually calling Jim back there, even though his name's Mike. The actor's name's Jim Smiley. And we're in a room with some rather nasty paintings. Underneath one... oh, bloody hand. And this is an episode as well that also makes really, really good use of non-Barry Gray library music. There's some really sinister atmospheric stuff in here.
He's in a bad way, Commander. I doubt if he'll make it.
And I've always wondered to what extent
Fusion really ripped him apart.
that extra music was
Let's get him back to Alpha as quickly as we can.
was included, maybe to
Flip.
because Barry Gray only scored 4 episodes, and I was just wondering if it was always the plan to have him do 4 and then bolster it with library material, or was it his own idea? But whoever it was,
Yeah. It's a one-room world.
it was a stroke of genius, because in episodes like this, with the horror content that this one has, the normal sort of jolly Barry Gray stuff doesn't quite fit as well. Then we've got now like a dozen people escorting this injured man to the medical centre. Now, I love that this show had so much money to throw around in the first series that they could afford so many extras.
You ran a track on Baxter.
Because you're not doing anything. Yeah, they have too many extras to even like give enough jobs to.
All right, Dr.
Oxygen small. It's registering stable. No vital signs.
Erratic.
Switch on.
And this is a really really interesting little scene as well. Koenig and Bergman watching Helena and her medical staff trying to save this injured man on a monitor. And it feels very realistic. It feels very naturalistic, the dialogue and the performances. Obviously, it doesn't last very long, but I think they were even letting 1 or 2 of the extras speak there.
I'm sorry.
Well, you tried. What now?
An autopsy, I suppose.
And Dr. Mathias is like, oh yeah, I suppose that's going to be on me. He doesn't even have to say anything now, he just knows he's going to get all the rubbish jobs. That's it. Pulling the sheet back over our very dead man, because he's very, very dead. Honest.
Mike, the blast hit you harder than it hit the rest of us. Now, medical seems to think that there might be some damage.
Now, you're not a main character, but you're not an extra either, so it's a kind of a grey area as to how we proceed with this.
No bull about it.
Oh, he said a rude word, he said a rude word.
Check you out. As soon as you're clear, I'm sure you'll be able to fly again. As far as I'm concerned, there's no problem.
I mean, you can fly anything you want, even if your eyes are falling out of their sockets. I don't care. You've seen some of my landings. I'm not going to criticize you for any of yours. Oh, and I really like this as well. This autopsy scene. It's Helena and Mathias and an orderly. For some reason, they're all sort of wearing plastic smocks, which I suppose is hygienic enough, but that's not what I'm trying to get at. The point is, we are outside whichever room in the medical centre this is all happening in, with the door shut, so we can't hear their reactions when they pull off the face bandages And see, he's absolutely fine. And now they start yelling at each other in silence to do things. Again, that's just such a cool little director touch. And it only happens a moment before we get dialogue back.
John!
Just a little while ago, that man was severely injured. He was mutilated beyond description. I happen to know because I dressed his wounds myself.
In fact, it was my own firing at the door and causing a massive explosion that injured him.
He indicated that he had died. Well, now he's alive. And what's more, we can't find any sign of injury, internal or external. He is completely healed. There's no cell decay. Oh, his body is being held in some sort of stasis.
Helena, that asteroid's been out in space for maybe 1,000 years. Is it possible that he's been out there all that time?
Well, these figures are just early indications. But if they're leading us where I think they are, anything is possible.
Ooh, I also love that in the first seasons. Presenting the Alphans with a problem. Not just a problem, but something that's so far beyond human understanding, and just watching them kind of stumble around in the dark for an explanation because it's all they can do, at least at first.
Right from the atmosphere chamber. And I bombarded it with antimatter to try and break down its molecular structure.
That sounds wildly dangerous, Victor. I thought I'd use a flamethrower on it and chuck a couple of nukes in there, see what happens.
And now look.
Ooh, so the asteroid rock can be destroyed, and then it reappears again. Remind you of anyone?
It's the same piece of rock, somehow reformed, reintegrated, regenerated. Just like the cell structure of the alien. My guess is that it's not really a rock at all, but a living organism. You can burn it, scrape it, blast it, bombard it with antimatter, and somehow it'll regenerate itself.
And this is, again, I think maybe I enjoy the direction on this more than anything else, but this scene of Bergman hypothesizing is intercut with scenes of our alien visitor waking up.
Organic matter? Or was it created for some specific purpose?
And again, these scenes of I'll call him Balor because I know that's his name, waking up are in total silence with ominous music. Oh, and he's out. And now we're going to get some, I think, reasonably impressive fight scenes. Again, in silence with creepy music. Yeah, lots of stuntmen flying around in silence. It's... And this music fits so well that it could honestly have been composed for this. Oh, and that's the security guard getting his face mushed against the door frame and bounce off the trampoline into the wall, and he's down. Oh, and I can't remember that security guard's name, but he was in a lot of things. He was a very brave man. He's the guy who gets set on fire at the end of License to Kill. He's the one who did that stunt. Anyway, Balor is now stalking his way down Moonbase Alpha's corridors, pausing to have a quick stroke of the old compost in the corridor.
How do I look?
Fine.
I mean, for an obviously doomed character, you look fine.
When do I get back to flying?
Well, we'll have to check the tests first.
And this is
Checks.
another really strong guest performance, and one I don't think gets enough recognition in the first season is Jim Smiley as Mike Baxter, who, yeah, it's a really kind of sad aspect to this story. We essentially, as this show did a couple of times,
Grounded.
We don't just present the non-regular Alphans as essentially cannon fodder, the way you might see similar characters on Star Trek. Put on a red shirt and you're going to be zapped or whatever. This show liked to take the time more than once to really explore who these minor but doomed characters were before they met their end.
It's been severely damaged.
And now poor old Mike has been told He can't fly because of damage to his eye.
Leave me alone.
And of course, his
Leave me alone.
the entire layout of his quarters is just full of models of planes and pictures of spacecraft on the wall. This flying is clearly his entire life, for his whole life, and now we have this very sad shot of him looking at the little model plane, and yeah, that is very sad. And it again reinforces the I think the inherent sadness of everybody on Alpha, because they've all had to lose so much that made them happy. They're all just barely clinging on to existence by the slimmest of margins, that even losing, as we can clearly see, Baxter losing his ability to fly is just devastating when there's so little to hold on to.
The aliens escaped from security.
Oh, we put 2 men on the door. That should have been enough. And Peter Bowles, who I apologise in advance, I may actually say Peter Bowles, because for the longest time I kept thinking his name was pronounced Bowles. So if I say Bowles, I don't mean Bowles, I mean Bowles. He gives a very strong, very interesting performance in this episode, and I think the sequence where he's wandering around Alpha, not specifically being evil or sinister, he's just exploring, because he genuinely doesn't know where he is or who all these strange people are, is really effective. Also helps that he appears to be wearing platform shoes that are about, well, they look about 2 inches tall. So all the Alphans are running away, but oh, there's a poor little lady on the floor who can't. Oh, she couldn't get up, and everybody kept trampling her. Anyway, we're going to throw our 2 security guards who failed earlier back at the problem. That'll take care of it. And they brought 2 of their buddies. And similarly, it's not going very well. Although the stuntman for Peter Bowles there is quite obvious, as is that cable holding up the guy he just lifted over his head. Anyway, Koenig and Alan are here now. And Koenig will let Alan do the dangerous work and fire at the naughty man.
Use the kill ray.
No! Please! Please, I must talk to you.
My name is Balor.
Hi, Balor.
I am a citizen of the planet Progron. Now is the time to stop, to talk, to try to understand each other.
And Peter Bowles is,
yes,
I think, doing a really good job here, because he is he's bringing just the right sort of...
Do not misunderstand me.
Element of
great service.
Sliminess is the only word I can really think of. He very much feels like a politician making promises he has no intention of keeping.
I don't understand why you're not dead.
But he does also seem very sincere, particularly when he's talking about his own history.
We were mortal, as you are. Our scientists began to experiment with the forces of life and death. They found first a means to eliminate the aging process in living tissue. My body is immortal.
I also like that they've brought Balor to main mission to have this conversation, rather than just go straight to Koenig's office. Koenig is quite willing to make this a public forum for anyone to pitch in with any observations.
I will tell you what happened on my world. And then perhaps you will begin to understand.
Although I believe this is one of maybe only a couple of episodes in which Xenia Merton appears but doesn't have any dialogue.
We tried to reverse the process. We tried to instill in the minds of our people the thought that only death gives a purpose to life, that a full response to life can only be measured against the fear of death. How can you value life if you do not fear death? I persisted, but in the end they
turned on me. I was the enemy. The cause of all their misfortune. A prison was constructed out of living rock. And I was shut in and cast out to suffer eternal solitude for what were considered my crimes.
Oh, Helena's eyes are watering. She's clearly bought it. The others, maybe not so sure. And also, I believe this is one of the final screen villains that Peter Bowles played throughout the 60s. He was a familiar face in these ITC shows. He would turn up in things like The Saint and others. The Avengers was another where he was always the baddie. And then this episode had a certain profound effect on various female members of the audience. He ultimately had more than one woman turn up on his doorstep saying, you know, I saw you playing the most evil man in the universe. Please do with me what you will. I believe one of these women actually came over from America. And after that, he was not so keen to play any villainous roles. Which is why a lot of his subsequent work as in sitcoms and such.
That space, it adds up.
And you can read about that in his autobiography, which actually has,
it makes sense.
Oddly enough, a photograph in there designed by
Immortality.
Me. Because I went through a phase in sort of 2008, 9, 10-ish of sending out photographs asking for actors' autographs, and I designed like a Space 1999 template, which I was quite proud of, and I sent one to Peter asking for it to be signed. I never got it back, but that I didn't mind because you know, I'm not owed anything, and I've waffled all over the yeah, that is a really nasty clip there. Those paintings are so ugly.
Terror. Destruction.
Yeah, he didn't return the photo. I don't care. But he published it in the photo section of his autobiography.
Maybe that's what he offered.
So, yeah, clearly he appreciated it on some level. Which is quite a strange thing to see a copy of that in Waterstones, flick through thinking, oh, I wonder if he's got anything about Space 1999 in there. Uh-huh.
Something he hasn't told us about.
Yeah, those paintings are really nasty. And that's that sudden... Although we saw them in the chamber earlier, seeing those sudden close-ups with the screaming...
I want you to run a constant computer check on Balor's whereabouts.
Which really brings home the violence in those images, like people with great big spikes stuffed through their heads. That's quite strong stuff, even for just a painting. I would assume those are paintings by Keith Wilson, but they are very nasty. And speaking of very nasty...
What do you want? I can understand you resenting me.
Balor has turned up in Mike Baxter's plane-filled quarters. And just as an aside, it would have been really cool if one of the aircraft seen on display here was something from like the Century 21 era.
What is it? And your minor disability.
Oh, but he's got some model aircraft kit boxes there as well.
Perhaps I can help you.
Oh yeah, with that lovely smile. Who could resist that?
Commander, computer reports that Balor has just entered Mike Baxter's quarters.
So naturally, Koenig goes to speak to the sinister, possibly dangerous alien, all alone, without security. But Balor doesn't seem to be here, just Mike.
Well, I'm glad to see you feeling better about things, Mike. Balor was here. What did he want?
And as I believe I covered this quite extensively in my top 10 scariest Space 1999 moments video a couple of years back. This attack scene is so... Not only is it so violent, far more violent than you would really expect this show to be. The fact that you're not seeing the actual violence, that we are the plane and we are the person being hit by the plane, ending with this massive screaming brain death thing. Oh gosh, yeah, bit of the old extreme ultra violence there. Again, beautiful direction, but not just beautiful direction, strange direction. I think I read a review of this show once, the series as a whole, that said, Space 1999 is the only show where every week you're guaranteed to see a grown man screaming in absolute hysteria. But with scenes like this, and we don't even really need to see the aftermath of the attack. Just the bloodied hand is enough, and the fact that we know that there was, there was like copious amounts of blood applied to Landau for the aftermath of the scene. Really gruesome injury detail. And this huge pool of blood on the floor after.
Baxter got the jump on me. He was still battering me when I passed out. And yet look at me now. There was a mark on me.
Bob, I want to report on what caused his death.
Yes, we'll rush an autopsy through straight away.
Joe, that expression, that attitude of the hands, where have we seen that before?
So the asteroid. There's pictures on the walls.
And I always wonder if
Ballard could have.
Baxter looks not just dead, but very, very, very dead, almost like rigor has already set in. And I always wondered if he had to be buried in that position with his hands up.
Why didn't he kill you?
His mouth wide open like that.
Paul, locate Ballard. Have him come to my office.
Ask the nice evil killer alien to come and have a meeting with me. Oh, but Balor's already there.
Did you visit one of our people? A man called Baxter. He's now dead.
Is he?
And again with the direction here, because this scene is lit with lots of heavy shadows in Koenig's office.
I happen to know you went to Baxter's quarters.
And Peter Bowles is hovering around in those shadows quite a bit. It's very effective.
And you waited until he thrashed me within an inch of my life. And then you came back and healed my wounds. Correct?
And an awkward moment of dubbing here.
Yes, everything that you say is absolutely correct.
Why?
I'm not sure why. That seems to be the only dubbed line in the entire scene.
You will follow my way. My philosophy will prevail here now. You see, Koenig, when you released me from my isolation, you left something there very precious to me. My paintings. Of course you noticed them. Scenes of terror, torture, chaos, destruction.
Yes. I know now that they were put there to remind you of what you did to your own people.
Right again, Koenig. And 1,000 years of reflection have convinced me. I was right. And now I have found a golden opportunity to prove it. Accept the challenge, Koenig. Surrender to the exquisite forces of pain and suffering, and you will transcend your limitations.
I love how excited Balor is by the thought of all this.
And what you offer is evil. We will resist you.
Oh, please, don't make me kill you. I have to be careful with mortals.
And it's a really nice dynamic as well between Bowles and Landau.
Baxter was too lucky.
Because you can see that Koenig is clearly...
Alpha, your people.
He knows how dangerous what Balor is promising would be. He knows this guy could kill him in an instant, very horribly, but he still knows he has to stand up to him.
Elsie?
No.
How will you stop me?
And Bowles is just tiptoeing on the right side of madness, tipped with the knowledge that he has the ability to do everything he says. Oh, that's it. Balor's on the loose in main mission. And he's going after the most important thing in the room. No, don't do it. Not Kano's desk. Oh no.
There will be death and destruction on this base until he agrees.
Now, there's an extra in this scene who I've seen several times in other episodes. She always seems to be smiling, even in moments of extreme peril like this one. She had a great big smile on her face. I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, Balor's on the loose in Alpha again.
Killer who can't be killed.
And of course, that's the basic premise of the episode. That was the idea that Johnny Byrne then developed into this wonderful character of Balor.
Balor is tearing Alpha apart. Well, can't we do something?
Yes, hold out until we come up with something.
Although I would say that maybe this is an example of, show don't tell, and we just had Paul there saying, all these terrible things are happening that we can't show you. Oh, but now here we are in Medical Center. Maybe we will see something now.
Dr. Russell, your medical functions here are now obsolete.
Get out of here.
Oh, and that's it for a little dark-haired orderly lady. But it isn't clear if he kills her or not.
But I will not kill you.
Because nobody actually confirms it one way or another.
One of our orderlies is... Balor is a cold-blooded killer.
And I know she, based on what she says there, it sounds like that orderly is probably dead. I would argue that the fact she turns up in later episodes very much alive is possibly evidence that she recovered. As was often the case in shows like this. I think in the second series, Harry Fielder is an extra who gets killed, and then the next week he's back alive again, like nothing happened.
I hear that.
You're right. I'll put it through the comlogs.
And I'm actually I'm rewatching the original Star Trek at the moment. You'd be surprised how many people, this guy gets killed, this guy in the red shirt gets killed, and then next week he's alive and well again, like nothing happened.
Tries to turn the whole area into a vacuum.
You agree to my terms?
No psychopath is going to dictate terms to us, Balor.
I mean, we got rid of Simmons already. We don't need you. Because as powerful as Balor is, he's not beyond being a little manipulated by Koenig on his vanity and his ego.
As soon as I'm cleared to pressurize. Are you crazy? You'll tear you to pieces. You can't fight
Alan, I know that.
What do you want me to do? Invite him to leave?
So, of course, we now have a daring, heroic plan to put into operation. And that requires Koenig does it alone. For some reason.
What's happening?
He's gone in there to take Balor. Alone.
And poor old Balor's looking a bit bored now. He's plodded around Alpha, wrecked everything. And Balor seems to be aware as well that he's being lured into a trap. As the doors are slowly closing behind him as he advances on Koenig. I also like that the airlock doors are only identified by stickers that are put on there. You would expect, since it's always going to be the airlock door, it might be a bit more permanent, but...
Ready here, Paul.
I suppose in this situation it's lucky that it isn't.
What are you doing here, Koenig?
Thinking.
Thinking about accepting my offer?
This is my favourite thinking place.
Maybe.
And here we discover a new power of Balor's.
Any more time, Koenig?
An electric slap! Which you would think might have been useful before.
Look, Balor, I need a little more time.
All right, Koenig, all right.
I would have to say that Peter Bowles is having a blast with this. He looks like he's having so much fun. Oh, that's it. Koenig to the door. Paul tried to close the airlock door, but...
Time's up, Koenig.
Bit too late.
I want your decision.
No, Koenig!
And that was the limit of Xenia Merton's contribution to this episode. She stood up. She had a close-up there where she stood up. I mean, I know things were rough for her on the second season, but usually whenever she appeared there, she had lines. Balor is now tossing Koenig around in the airlock.
I'm trying not to kill you, Koenig.
But he's so secure in his own superiority, he's not expecting... Oh, that. Oh. And Koenig's got himself punched out the airlock. Doors closed. Outer doors open. And it's all sorted. It's all over.
Are you all right, Commander?
Yeah, Paul.
Although I never quite understood how Balor being ejected from the base seems to... I don't know what happened after that. Because now we have this scene of them planting charges to blow up the asteroid. But what happened to Balor out on the... Because he wouldn't have achieved escape velocity to get off the moon. He's got to be somewhere on the lunar surface. Did they have an eagle come in with like one of those grabs like you get in the arcade machines to sort of pick him up and, I don't know, put him back on the asteroid maybe? There is actually a the first in the Powers Media Space 1999 continuation books, which I only recently read.
I like it we survived.
Which,
It was our fault. We unleashed him.
We meddled. We interfered with another people's justice. We must learn to leave some things alone.
Until next week, where we unleash yet another horror that we really shouldn't go anywhere near.
The price was too high.
Yeah, I believe the book is called Resurrection. I want to say that it was written by William Latham, and it sort of picked up on the premise that Balor was just left on the lunar surface. I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. It's a very good book. Well worth a look. Anyway, the destroyed asteroid has resurrected itself, ending the story on a nice ominous note, and that was End of Eternity, which has never been one of my absolute favourite Space 1999s. It has a lot of strong ideas in it. It's just like a nice typical, I don't want to use the word average episode, because an average episode of Space 1999 is still awesome, but yeah, some fantastic acting from Peter Bowles. Love a bit of Balor.
Peter Bowles?
Oh, dear old Peter Bowles.
Peter Bowles?
Bless you, Chris.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, do you know, many years ago, Richard, this is not relevant at all, but I'm going to tell you regardless.
Right, good. We can always cut it out.
I was in a school play.
Yeah.
I don't know why I tell you this. Called The Dream Machine.
Yes.
Where I played Dr. Bobby Dazzler.
Of course you did.
Who was the inventor of the Dream Machine. Anyway, the afternoon before the first performance, which Mum and Dad were coming to, they were laying out the bar.
Yeah.
For, people coming to watch.
Yeah.
For the audience, that's the word.
That's the word, yes.
And they were putting beers out and stuff. And I met Mum and Dad in the car park, and Mum said, "Oh, I really fancy a beer." And I said, "Oh, I've seen them putting out some." And she said, "Oh, do you know what it is?" And I said, "Oh, it's Stella Artois."
Stella Artois.
I didn't know what it was. I was only like 10 or something.
Yeah.
And she mercilessly mocked me for that for years.
Of course she did. She's a good mother.
Yeah, that's what mothers do, isn't it?
Right, of course it is.
So there you go, Chris. Between your bowels and my Aratos,
oh, there's an image.
We're not doing very well. Anyway, there you go. A typical but average, although Chris does say an average episode of Space 1999 is still great.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So yeah, full of strong ideas.
Yeah.
But the most exciting thing I think was the bowel discovery.
Yeah, quite right. Yes.
So thank you, Chris. More randomizer next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully fewer bowels.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
Maybe. Oh. Ernie's just popped back in.
Hello, Ernie. Hi.
Looks very pleased with himself. He's been my pest controller for the last couple of weeks. Do you know, Richard?
I didn't know that. He's kept Chris Dale away, you mean?
Yeah, he has. But 2 nights ago, he caught a really, really big rat.
Oh.
It was massive.
Oh, hang on.
Absolutely massive.
Caught what?
A big rat.
A big... Right, because that's from Joe 90.
No. It was just a large...
90, and it's like a Joe 90 thing, isn't it?
It was just a large rat.
Are you actually...
It was just a large rodent.
Joe 90 thing?
Anyway, Richard, that is the end of Pod 89 plus 1.
Well, Pod 90. It's like Joe 90, isn't it?
Fine. That's the end of it, and there's no more room for anything about that show.
I've got 90 facts about Joe 90 here for Pod 90.
Have you?
I was going to squeeze those in. But no?
I'll tell you what, we'll do those after the end titles, shall we?
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Fine.
Anyway, so if you'd like to get in touch, please do email us podcast@jerryanderson.co.uk. As Richard asked earlier on, please leave a rating.
Yes, thank you.
Which is a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or Overcast or Podbay or Podbean or whatever app you're using to listen to us on. And also, I just say, if you're listening to us on YouTube...
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned this before, we're probably going to stop posting the podcast to YouTube soon.
Oh, yes. Why is that?
A couple of reasons. I mean, YouTube doesn't like that particular long content without any actual picture happening. It's just audio applied to an audiogram.
Yeah.
So please, please, please go and switch over to a podcast app. We would hate you to start missing episodes.
Cool, can you imagine? Yeah, dreadful.
Yeah, so it's really easy. If you're an Apple device, you've got Apple Podcasts on there. If you're on an Android device, Stitcher seems to be the one, or Spotify, or there's loads of them. Just go and get yourself an app and listen on there. And you also might find some other rather good podcasts.
Okay.
Possibly. But don't spend too much time on those. That's it. We're done. Aren't we, Richard? We're not talking about anything else 90 themed?
Well, I've got those 90 facts. Maybe I can squeeze them. What?
We'll do that after.
Oh, yes. Okay, fair, fine.
Yeah. So that's the end of Pod 90. Thank you for listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Should we go now?
Let's go.
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
We made it, Richard. And do you know what? I know you're busy with your house move and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah.
What's the house like? Is it quite very traditional?
Well, not really traditional. No, I wouldn't say that. No, why? What have you got in your? What's the image that it conjures?
Well, I always sort of pictured you in a thatched cottage, actually. So,
a thatched cottage. Oh,
yeah,
hang
lovely.
on. What, like? But that's like from Joe 90, isn't it? That's
no, it's nothing to do with that, Richard. If you're going to keep doing this, anyway, I've got to go. I've got an appointment to get to.
Oh, well, you go.
Quite far away.
I'll make a
Wish
start
I had a jet
on my
car to get there.
Yeah, a jet car. Right,
Yeah.
That's it. I'm definitely reading out these 90 facts. So goodbye to you, Jamie.
Right, I've got to go.
And I'll make a start on these anyway. So
Okay,
the
goodbye.
device used to transfer the brain patterns of various experts in their fields, brain surgeons, fighter pilots, etc., in Joe 90, was called Big Rat, which stood for Brain Impulse Galvanoscope Record and Transfer. Fact number 2. According to Gerry Anderson, the plot of Joe 90 was based around Gerry's pre-Super Marionation days when he served as an assistant editor for films such as The Wicked Lady, handling recording tape on a daily basis. Fact number 3. In most of the Gerry Anderson shows, including Joe 90, all vehicles drive on the right, even though Joe 90 is set in England, where they drive on the left. And here's fact number 4, not many to go now. Most of the guest puppets were previously used in Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons and would later be used again in the Secret Service. Fact number 5. Joss Whedon's short-lived TV series Dollhouse in 2009 had the same premise as Joe 90. In that series, the series' main protagonist, Echo, a secret agent, has skills downloaded.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Wasn't it fun?